Hi everyone, welcome back to the African Footprints podcast with me, Effie. First of all, I want to thank you all so much for subscribing, for watching our videos, and for sharing. We have received so much love and so many comments, positive and negative, and it's an opportunity to see what we are doing well and an opportunity to also see what we're doing wrong and learn and improve from it. So thank you so much for being part of this journey. And as we grow the baby, African Footprints, together with Red Square, we welcome you to take this journey with us. And we'll have so many stories and we hope to engage with you even more. And as we do, feel free to share your comments. Feel free to share stories that you feel we should talk about. And we'll be open to discussing them. Thank you. So today I'll go straight to our story. And it's rather gloomy. Maybe that's why I'm in black, but that's beside the point. And it's a story that I don't think most of us, especially in my generation, know about, because it happened maybe a decade before we were born. But it's something that I still see happening quite often, not in the scale that it happened then, but at least that discrimination has never really gone away. And it's a discussion we need to have. And today, we're talking about the Wagalla Massacre of 1984. So, on a day that started like any other, 10th February 1984, people in Wajir County were then it was a province, I think, just going about their business on what looked like an ordinary morning. But they did not know that would be the start of a 4-day bloodbath at the Wagalla Air Strip. So, just before the events of February 10th, there had been high-profile cabinet meetings, and this was because of the insecurity that was happening in the northern region. And because of that insecurity, there was emergency meetings left, right, and center. But the main emergency meeting was at Harambee House. And this meeting was simply to discuss what should the cabinet do about the insecurity that seems to be rising in the northern region of Wajir. And as this was happening, instructions were given to the provincial administrators to ensure that they do whatever they can to get rid of the problem. And the problem seemed to be the Dagojia community. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Please feel free to correct me because, I don't think I got the pronunciation right. Now, back to our main story. We go back to February 8th, and this is 2 days before the event started happening. Information came from the provincial administration that it's a green light. It's a go. We need to start with the security operations, so to speak, as they termed it. And on 10th February, a very early morning, police raided the communities in Wajir. Police raided every village, and they would simply ask, "Wewe ni Dagojia?" And if you are one of the members of that community, you'd be bundled up, rounded, and put in a van and taken to Wagalla Air Strip. Now, the sad thing, there was no age limit. Everyone from 12 years to 50 or whatever was taken, and only men were taken for this operation. It was supposed to be an interrogation, or at least it was branded to be an interrogation. But like I said, it soon turned into a bloodbath. Now, as I'll tell this story, look at 3 things. 1, there is no proper instruction. 2, there is profiling of an entire community, an entire sub-clan of the Somali community. And 3, mass killing, which is quite sad. So once these people are taken to the Wagalla Air Strip, you guys have had stories. If you've never been to the northern region, you know the heat, the scorching heat in that region. So they were taken there, and everyone was told to strip and lie on the ground. And as they stripped and lay on the ground, hot ground, by the way, a new airstrip, they were beaten, all in the name of interrogating them to ensure they were not the perpetrators of the clashes that were happening in Wajir at that time. And what saddens me is the fact that out of every Somali community that lived in the northern region, this is the only community that was targeted. Why? We may never be able to know. But as the story goes, they were allegedly the perpetrators of the clashes that were happening in that region. Now remember, there are 12-year-old boys, 14-year-old boys, 70-year-old men. All of them bundled together with no proper instructions on what is happening. What happened next? For the next 4 days, between 10th February and 14th February, while people are getting ready to celebrate Valentine's Day and celebrate a month of love, people are being killed and brutally beaten, all in the name of interrogating them to see if they're the perpetrators of the vices. And as they were being beaten, some tried to escape, and those who tried to escape from the airstrip were shot. And I remember reading one survivor who spoke to Al Jazeera actually said he asked one of the cops, just shoot me so that I die instead of the torture that you're putting us through. And the police said, you do not deserve my bullets. You are that unworthy. You do not deserve to be shot to die. You will die either way. Now, let me just make it clear. These people were not put there, it was a normal cell with food. No, they did not have those privileges. It's funny that I can even say food is a privilege, but yeah, they never had food, they never had any water. So most of them were killed, most of them were shot, most of them were beaten to death, but some died of starvation because 4 days, an area that is already prone to drought and famine, so they had probably not eaten for a few days before that event, but they were starved to death. Talk of Shakahola in the making. That's beside the point. Some of them died of starvation, some of them were killed, and like I said, those who tried to escape, they were caught, they were shot, and some were just left lying there. Others were thrown in the forests nearby. Now, come to think of it, this is an operation that was orchestrated by the government, the sitting government by then. And I believe we all know who was the sitting government, who was the leader of the sitting government. And as information kept coming down, the only information these soldiers had was round them up, take them to the airstrip and interrogate them. And the interrogation was in form of beating. But after the 4 days, the military personnel realized there's no more instruction coming. So there was a lot of confusion about what do we do with these people, what happens from now. And like I said, there were no clear instructions on what happens to these people, what is the agenda of the interrogation, why are we rounding up this entire community. And when they realized there's no more information coming in, well, they decided, other than the ones who are dead, the others were released and taken back to their families. Now these were husbands, these were people's brothers, these were people's sons, these were people's uncles who were rounded up simply because they looked a certain way and they bore certain names. And because of that, they were profiled. And it's not something new. That's the sad part. It's not something new, and it's not something that's ending anytime soon. We have seen it happening in Rwanda. We have seen it happening in our own country. There was a massacre in Kisumu, which most of us do not know about. There was a massacre, the situation we had in 2007, 2008, which most of us do not like talking about. But at the end of it all, there have been several other incidences against the Somali community, but the Wagalla massacre seemed to top it all. Because this massacre, as much as the government says only 57 people died, records show that people died in the thousands. And while the TJRC and the KNHCR set up a monument in Wajir to honor those who had died, the names of those people in the monument are about 487, and makes you wonder, why is the government saying 57 people died, while the witnesses who are there, who were tortured with those who died, saying it was in the thousands? Yet, the same number by the government conflicts with the number in the monument, which is 487. I think we should have a conversation of how the Somali community is treated in this country. I have had a chance to speak with most of them and engage with most of them in school or in the course of my work. And one thing that I have heard them complain about is how frequently they're asked to identify themselves and prove that they're Kenyan. While an ordinary Kenyan citizen would be asked to just show your ID or your license or your passport or whatever just to prove that you're Kenyan, most of them, that is not sufficient, because when you produce that, well, it might be deemed to be fake. So you're considered an Al-Shabaab, you're considered to be a member of the ISIS or any terrorist group. And it's worrying, because these are Kenyan citizens, born, bred, raised in Kenya, work in Kenya, contribute to the economy of the country, but still treated as second-grade citizens. Yes, we might not have a repeat of the Wagalla Massacre, but that discrimination alone was the root cause of the Wagalla Massacre. That discrimination alone led to the death of people in numbers we cannot be definite about, but for now, let's just say 487, or as the government terms it, 57. It is that discrimination that led to the killing of those people, dumping of their bodies in the forest. It is that discrimination that was the root cause. And if that is not addressed, then it's not going to end, and we might just be gearing up for another. I hope we're not going to have another Wagalla Massacre, and I was torn whether to tell this story or not, because I didn't like it. It made me feel sad, and I don't want to be, all gloom and doom, the princess of darkness, and talking about stories that are mostly sad and heartbreaking, but something has to be said. We are used to seeing the praises, and when you talk about Northeastern, most of us just think of, floods, hunger, where the government is taking food there, the government is sending relief. But remember, there was a time the government stood against its own people, its own citizens, who bear the identity of a Kenyan nationality, who bear the identification cards and identification documents of a Kenyan citizen. And if the government can stand against them, it can also stand against you. So it's up to us to take a stand and ensure that does not happen again. When you see that Somali brother or Somali sister being harassed simply because they look a certain way or they don't look Kenyan enough, it's upon you to do something about it. And I hope we do not have a repeat of that. And to my Somali brothers, to my Somali sisters who lost loved ones at the Wagalla Massacre, or who've had stories or similar stories happen to them and their family members, I want to tell you this today. We stand with you, and we'll ensure that does not happen again. Thank you for watching. I do not want to speak much on this because, well, I think the mood today is quite somber. Thank you. Remember to subscribe and watch us on the next video. Bye.
My Lord, may God forgive him for saying such.
I could not be without having a woman, because that could give me prostate cancer.
And I can only imagine the sense of betrayal, anger, and uncertainty.
Najenga dam ya Aror na Kimwarer kule katika sehemu ya Elgeyo Marakwet.
I went to Alliance Gas School. That was the school that people who would make it went to.
Africa, a land rich in natural resources, wildlife, and diverse culture. Historically seen as a dark continent, I think it's time we shed some light on the stories of people and events that have shaped our beautiful continent. Join me through this journey as we retrace our African footprints.